All right, moving on. We have got a good interview this week. We've had some great interviews with Haley Wickenheiser, James Duthie. We've had Brad May. This is a special interview for us, okay? And let me tell you why. So in September of 2015, on opening day of the NFL season, my guest and wife found a lump on her left breast. After being diagnosed with breast cancer and going through multiple surgeries, including a mastectomy, Jeannie began her biggest fight of her life, taking on the disease and battling it with chemotherapy and radiation treatments. Through the advice of her surgeon, Dr. Paul Gooby, and oncologist, Dr. Mohammed Harb, she began the next challenge and purchased a bike through Mike's Bike Shop and started preparing for a 50K ride with the New Brunswick Doctors Cycle Against Cancer team to raise funds for the Moncton Hospital. It's my pleasure to welcome Gini Bourque to First Down Sports. How you doing, Jeannie?
Good.
Good.
Hats off, Jeannie.
It's funny to say welcome to First Down Sports when you pretty much live it on a daily, weekly basis, seeing that our studio is now in our rec room.
Yeah, it's kind of taken over our life.
It's a locker room.
The locker room, yeah, you could say that, yeah. It's a big part of our life now.
Big part of our life.
Do you host friends down here?
We don't anymore. You guys are it.
Well, I'm talking to you
You're
specifically.
the only friends he has now.
So, as you guys know, yesterday, Jeannie got to the hospital. She gave a great speech to a lot of people there. The mayor of Moncton was there, Don Arnold. There were a lot of, well-known people from Moncton in the crowd yesterday. You gave a great speech. It is on our Facebook page. And let's start out. So when you decided to get into the mindset of preparing yourself for a 50K ride, okay, and you knew that you were going to be giving an opening statement at opening ceremonies, did you expect there to be that many people in the crowd when you gave it?
No, I didn't expect that kind of reception. I was nervous anyway. I don't really like being the center of attention.
Yeah.
Only one of us in this relationship can handle that. You can have it. It's not something that I really, really like. So I was surprised to see how many people were there. And even as we left, all of the people just cheering and waving and the police escort and all the way out of the city. So it was pretty cool.
And CBC was there. They
Radio
wanted to
Canada.
get your attention, and C103 and they were all calling the bikers throughout the ride to see how Jeannie was doing on the ride yesterday. So.
Yeah, they continued to ask, how's the patient doing, that kind of thing, because I was the only cancer survivor that was participating in the race.
That's
so
awesome. That's
all
really
those
awesome.
big outlets got to talk to you prior to the race. We're the first news source, if you will, to get the exclusive interview after the race.
After the race, that's true, yes.
All right, so one of the things that we learned in the ride yesterday, and I didn't know this as a cyclist, but whenever there's a cycling team heading out, there's always somebody that wears the yellow jersey, which means they're following that person or they're riding for that person. So yesterday, Jeannie got to wear the yellow shirt. She was the celebrity, if you will, of the team. How did that feel going into the experience?
Well, I was nervous because I'm not a cyclist, or I don't consider myself one, or I didn't before yesterday.
Right.
But it felt good. It felt good. It was exciting to be able to do it. I think that's considering where I was a year ago. This week we were preparing for radiation treatment.
Yeah,
so
we were.
Just getting over chemo. So who would have thought a year later I could even do like anything like that?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And how did when you were getting yourself in that mindset of taking off from the hospital, how did that feel leaving with all those doctors on the bike leaving the hospital?
I was just focused on riding smoothly, cleanly, like just watching my cadence, watching my speed. Just you don't really think about anything else, because as soon as you get on the road and you start to follow, you want to make sure you don't ride ahead of somebody or behind or bump into anybody. You're just focusing. I'm clipped in, so you have to think about that. There's just all those kinds of I don't know, I guess just thinking about just riding.
Well, it was interesting seeing, I got all kinds of great pictures on the Facebook page, but prior to the race, they had a picture of Jeannie and the whole team. Now, most of these people, except for 3 of them, are going to ride their bikes around the province, 500 kilometers in a 5-day period, which it's a big deal. And most of these riders, these are big people. 6 foot plus. I mean, they got thighs the size of my hips. Like these are people that are in big shape. And Jeannie's standing there. She looked like Mighty Mouse standing beside them all. What did you feel when you were getting your picture taken, looking up to everybody?
Well, I didn't notice that until after. When I saw the pictures, I looked at them and thought, my goodness, I look really short. And it's funny you call me Mighty Mouse because that's something my dad's always called me, right? And some of these guys were huge. I mean, some of these guys are 250 pounds, 6'4". Like they're tall, long, lean, very athletic.
Yeah.
Opposite of Nick, then, you're saying.
Yeah, opposite.
Opposite of Nick.
Just like
Sorry,
Nick.
I'm so sorry.
Probably most like Nick. All right, so let's talk about the 50K. So 50K is a long distance for your first ride. Talk to the listeners about the prep work that goes into getting ready for a ride like that.
Well, I started out with the Cycle Chicks from Mike's Bike Shop. I asked a lot of questions. I did some research, did the typical project management of the schedule, the plan, the budget, just had some goals set in place, and then I bought the trainer and the bike, and I started training inside. Didn't know what it was like to ride outside. And then I just would do 10K, 20K. And then last Sunday, I did my first 50K. Out, in that great wind that was there. It was the day after that big storm that was going on. So you just kept preparing by, this time I'm gonna ride for an hour, or this day I'm gonna ride 20 kilometers, or now I'm gonna go up to 30 kilometers. Then I would go up to 35, and I just kept doing a little bit more. And then I would try some hills, or I would do some laps around the neighborhood, go to Centennial Park.
Yeah.
You just try different things so that you can build your legs up, and you have to ride, as much. Well, you would see I was out a couple times a week.
Now, what would the longest distance be that Ray was able to hang with you during some of these practice runs?
He did 10K one time, and then I dropped him off at home, and I went and did another 10.
Okay.
Now, that being said, hold on here.
You have to give him
There
a
we
bit of
go.
a break. He is on a mountain bike.
Talk about the talk about the bike. Even the doctor's talking about this.
Yeah, like in Ray's case, he's on a mountain bike. So
That I bought from Costco like 15 years ago.
probably, yeah, and it's heavy. And his tires he just has
Wobbly.
more tread.
Right.
So he would have to pedal twice as hard as I would.
Right.
So I was just coasting along, and I remember I was way ahead of you. I was barely even pedaling. Yesterday, these cyclists were way ahead of me. I was like, why am I so far behind? I couldn't. Well, one, I think maybe because I wasn't strong enough, but the other part was they had different tires. They had real road tires, where I had a hybrid bike, and my bike was probably about 5 pounds heavier than theirs. So it really makes a difference to have a light
For
bike.
sure.
Yeah.
Or you could just give it to you and just say, yeah, you're better than me. You could just do that.
Well, what we could do is we could take a video camera over to the park, and we could take the bike and see who can make it up to the top of the hill.
We can do that.
All right.
That's a future. That's a future.
There we got a
segment.
future bet right
We're
there.
gonna have to put something on the line too.
All right.
Just watch it, though. Chris put in a good 5K the other day.
Yeah, that's right. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. So
Power walk.
you got to ride in this race along with your surgeon and your oncologist, Dr. Gooby and Dr. Harp. So after the year of going through what you went through is with the treatments and the recovery, how did it feel riding along your two doctors?
Well, on the ride, they're Mo and Paul.
Okay.
So we don't call them doctor anything when we're on the ride. It's something that they've insisted. It was weird at first because I would be riding along and be like, oh, there you are. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, he's riding with me. This is nice. I was trying to keep up, and I thank them for riding with me because I was so slow. And I shouldn't say that I was slow because you want to think of it more in a positive way, but I would thank them to say, thank you for coming back, because they would ride ahead and everyone took a turn And they would all come back, and then I'd look over and go, "Oh, okay, this is cool."
This is nice.
Yeah, thank you. Like, thank you for riding with me. And I didn't think anything more about it other than it's cool that you're riding next to me. So I didn't see them as, oh, that's my doctor. I didn't see it like that.
Right. That's great. That's great. Okay, so for my cousin Marty, who listens to the show from time to time, that has gone on to tell us that cyclists are the toughest athletes in the world. Now, I will tell you this. While I was in Toronto for a couple of weeks, I would call home to Jeannie and say, how's your biking going? And she would tell me, oh, I wiped out today, or I did this, and I scraped my knee up, blah, blah. So I get home, and she's got scrapes and cuts all over her legs, okay? On the morning of the ride, getting out of the car, Jeannie scraped her knee on the glove box getting out. So she's bleeding in the parking lot before the bike ride. Everybody's getting their pictures taken. There's blood coming down from Jeannie's knee. So outside that, can you tell us about cycling and why somebody would want to get involved in this sport?
Well, why they would?
Yeah,
I mean, in my case,
why should somebody take up the sport of cycling versus running or anything else?
Well, I just think it's more exciting. I mean, you're going like a really fast speed. I mean, the fastest I've gone is like 45 kilometers down a hill.
Right.
And I'm going down the Salisbury Road, and you're flying. And you can even go faster than that, like 60. The thrill of going that fast. You're going as fast as a car. I was going down the Salisbury Road. There wasn't even a bike lane. And I'm just flying down the hill. And a great big grin on my face the whole time going, this is really fun. Then you're looking ahead and going, oh, crap, there's a hill.
That was me. I'd get that little dumb and dumber wobble there.
Right. So then you just kind of change your gears, and all you can think about is I'm going to get to the top of the hill like that. And you don't think of anything else. I didn't think of ever giving up.
Yeah.
Saying, I'm not going to do it, except for one time. And it lasted like a few seconds. I almost called Sandra to say, you're going to have to come pick me up, because I was at 45 kilometers and I couldn't go anymore. It's like, I'm done. Then I said, this is not as hard as chemo. It's not as hard. Chemo was way, way harder than this. Like the pain of that is complete. So I think of it like that. I think I haven't done anything as hard as the chemo. Yeah. So every hill that I go up, that's what I think of. I go up the hill, and even though like last weekend, I wiped up going downhill. A huge wipeout. Chain fell off. I had grease up to my arms. I was a huge wipe. Like my arms are scraped up. My knees are scraped up. I'm all alone in Centennial Park going, oh, geez, I'm really out in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to have to figure out how to do it. So I get back on the bike, and that's the toughness. Like, you got to get back on the bike because you're out in the middle of nowhere.
You got to ride home.
You got to ride home.
You can't
like, what am I going to do, right?
Walk?
Just walk? I mean, you can't do that.
Walk
so,
5K?
Yeah, you walk home 5K, after a big burger.
So that's where that toughness that Marty talks about.
I think that, from what I'm learning, I mean, I've only been doing this since March, but even riding outside since April. So I think that's part of it. And you don't think anything about going down that hill or scared of the cars. Like, people are really good about the Ellen's Law, like respecting the 1 meter. But those cars are buzzing by you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're going really fast. And if you just slip one little bit, you go right off the road. And that happened a couple weeks ago. The wind took me and just went right off. I went right off and just tumbled right into the road.
That's what I can relate in only one small way, where I worked on a farm when I was younger, Miller's Farm back home. We had baled hay, so anytime things got tough, like doing something, you always think, oh, that's way tougher. So I can't even imagine what you went through to be able to relate to tough situations. So that's awesome that you have something as a point of reference to say, no, this is way tougher, so let's get back on a bike and finish it up.
Yeah, like anytime I think of if I'm going to give up on something or this is too hard, like nothing as hard as that.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
I haven't had to do anything as hard as that ever before.
Awesome.
All right, so from the time you were diagnosed with cancer, throughout the treatments, throughout the recovery, to preparing for this ride and watching you get through the ride, there's been very little complaining. There's been no moaning or whining. Maybe,
from me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe a couple of
I had
things.
a few weak moments, but not any.
I never heard you say, why me? Right? So my biggest question is, where's this toughness come from? I've talked about the last year how tough you are mentally, physically. Where's the toughness come from?
I think it's from, like, my parents are tough people. I certainly wasn't brought up as with, I don't want to say a lot of love, because that's not really very fair, but they're not terribly affectionate. And they have really, really, really high expectations. Everything was, you could do a little bit better. I wasn't terribly entitled either, so I wasn't given a lot. I was always held accountable. I was always made responsible for everything that I had to do. And my dad always, always, always encouraged his girls to, you can do anything that you want. You can do as much as you want. It doesn't matter that you're a girl. It doesn't matter that you're small, because he used to say the Mighty Mouse thing. You're just this little squirt, he'd say. And you're just this little thing, but that shouldn't stop you. So, and they just would push us. They pushed us to do anything we wanted to do.
That's great.
Andy can kind of relate with that too, like being called a squirt, being as short as you are.
Just a little guy.
And it's
Just a
always like
little
a
guy.
go big or stay home kind of thing. I just believe in doing big things, and I seem to get myself involved in something big every time.
So
Right.
It doesn't matter what I do. When I move away, I move to China. When I move somewhere, or do any type of job, I do as much as I can. So that's where I think it might come from, because I think my parents are tough people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, folks, that's Jeannie Bourque. Again, my wife, she just finished riding the 50K ride with the New Brunswick Doctors Cycle Against Cancer team. They do have a Facebook page. Check it out. It's a great cause. Their goal is to raise $55,000 this year, and it's to purchase equipment to make the oncology unit a more comfortable place, not only for the patients, but the families that have to spend all this time in these areas. So, again, you're an inspiration, your mental toughness, and most importantly, you're my wife.